Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Nicole, and in today's video I will be making Spanish rice, my family edition. First, I'm going to start off by cutting up my bell pepper. So I don't actually think this recipe is a real Spanish rice recipe, but it's what my family uses, so it's what I'm using. Please don't come at me at the comments, or in the comments I should say. If you have a recipe that your family has made and you would like for me to try and record, I will gladly do that. Just post it in the comments. The recipe calls for 1 medium bell pepper, but I feel like this one is ginormous. So now I have my bell pepper in strips and I'm going to dice them. I hope to be able to share some tips and tricks, but please leave things in the comments that you would like to learn how to do. And I will do my absolute best. I am still learning myself, actually. Like, it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because I want people to see what it's like to learn how to do these things in the moment while I'm myself learning, so that I can hopefully help and motivate other people to do the same, blind or not. So my bell peppers are chopped. Let's set those aside and let's start on the onion. This recipe calls for 1 large onion, but I'm going to use a smallish and kind of medium onion. These are meant to be diced, and for my sanity, I'm not going to do that by hand. I'm going to use a tool today. One of the greatest tools ever invented is this handy dandy onion chopper. So you just cut the onion into a small enough piece, and then you put it inside of there. You put this piece on top. Can I do this properly? And then you close it and you smash. And I'm going to take it out and we're going to see how small these pieces are. Oh my god, I'm crying. They're not nearly as small as I need them to be, so we will continue to do that. So I recently traveled and I didn't take my onion chopper with me, and I realized that I absolutely despise cutting onions. If you use any cool gadgets in the kitchen that help make cooking easier, whether you're blind or not, feel free to put them in the comments. I will never complain about easier, quicker ways to cook. Well, that feels like a lot of onion, but the onion is done. It's really fun being blind because I just found more onion as I was watching the chopper. So that means I'm going to have to cut that by hand, but it's okay. It's just a little piece. Okay, now I'm done cutting up the onions. I think. I hope. The sighted people will be able to see for sure or not. And now time for the seasonings. I'm going to do 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and I'm doing it over the sink because it's that's why, because if it spills, it's easier to clean. So another thing that I do to make my life a little bit easier is I put all of my seasonings in either a bowl or a cup prior to cooking, and then when I am ready to add them in, I can just do that all at once instead of trying to do it over the pot, one step at a time and risking spillage. A teaspoon of garlic powder. I might honestly add a little bit more, but I'm gonna wait until after I've added it in and tasted everything because I love garlic. Half a teaspoon of black pepper. That's all the seasonings that I'm using, but like I said, I don't think this recipe is actually a Spanish rice recipe, because there is no like cumin, cayenne, no like spicy peppers, no beans, no corn, chicken broth compared to other recipes that I saw. So just feel free to modify it based on how you would like it to taste. And like I said, I will take any recommendations on recipes in the comments below. I'll be cooking in a deep pot because it makes my life much easier. And I'm gonna pour in some avocado oil and just put my finger at the end, and wow, felt like a lot came out. I just swirl it around with my finger. Sorry fam, yes, this is what you're eating. And don't worry, I washed my hands like 20 times beforehand. Before I put my pot on the stove, I'm just going to add 1 pound of ground beef. Well, there it goes. So now I'm going to put this on the stove, and the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to turn my heat on high, and then I'm going to put my hand over the heat to kind of gauge where it goes. And we're going to set the pot down and then feel around to see if there's heat coming from around. I don't know if it's perfectly centered because it's a flat top, but I know that it's over the heat. So we want to brown our meat first. I'm just going to move it around so that it doesn't get stuck. If you're wondering, how do you know when your meat is brown or browned? As a blind person, you don't if your eyesight is as bad as mine. You have to go based on the texture of the meat and the smell. Like right now, it smells gross and it's a little bit squishy, but when it's ready, it gets firm and it smells way better, especially when you add your veggies and seasonings to it. Speaking of adding veggies and seasonings, I'm going to drop in my onions and bell peppers now so that they can cook with the meat. I realized that my light was off. As a blind person, you don't need your lights to cook. So I didn't realize it, but when you're recording content, the sighted people would like to see what you're cooking. So something that's super cool is I'm actually using my Ray-Ban Meta glasses to record my content videos. And one of the things that I could also use it for is asking it what my food looks like. So I just asked it what color the meat was, and it said that it's red. So that's really cool. If you want to sponsor me, Meta, please do so. Okay, so now that it's cooked a little, I'm going to add my seasonings into this. Sprinkle them in. Use my hands to feel that I got everything out of this bowl. And then we're going to mix it all in. Make everything in here, friends, so that every bite tastes delicious. Well, I do love me some garlic, so I just actually decided to add an extra teaspoon of garlic. And this recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of mustard. I didn't feel like washing my teaspoon after putting garlic, so I'm using a tablespoon, but I did not fill it in or fill it up all the way. Add 2 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce. There's 1. And there is 2. 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. I think these are 14-ounce cans each. I'm just trying to be gentle so that it doesn't splash back in my face or all over the stove. Ooh, yeah. There it goes. I'm just going to mix those in a little bit before I add more ingredients to this. I'm going to add 2 cups of rice. Pre-measured, it's in a bowl. And finally, 3 cups of water. 1, 2, and I spilled water on the stove. 3. Thank goodness it's only water. Now I'm just going to mix everything in together, make sure it's well incorporated, and then we're gonna make sure that it comes to a simmer, which it's at a very, very low bubbly right now. So once it comes to a simmer, I'm going to cover it and leave it cooking for 20 to 25 minutes so that the rice can fully cook. Okay, it's been 25 minutes, so I'm going to turn my heat off. This next part is probably my least favorite part, and it is transferring the contents from the pot to a 9x13 Pyrex, which is probably going to make a mess. One way that I found to do this that's easier, but only for me if my pot is smaller than my Pyrex, is I put the pot kind of inside the Pyrex and then I tilt it over and scoop everything out, but this pot is not smaller than the Pyrex, so I'm kind of scared it would overflow from the sides. I am a perfectionist, so I like to make sure all of my stuff is even, which you should do anyways for even baking. But I like to take my spoon or whatever, use the back of it and just go from side to side, kind of press down until things feel even, and make sure your corners are included in that. That is my downfall. That's one part that I'm a little weak at, but I'm getting better. This is proof before the last step, before we add it into the oven, that I am indeed washing my hands with soap. Because this recipe wasn't Americanized enough, I'm going to be adding an entire pound of Velveeta cheese to the top. I'm just going to scoop some chunks with a spoon and just apply it to random parts of my dish until I feel like it's all covered. Taking way too long. Judge me if you'd like. I don't really care. It's gonna get heated up. My hands are washed. They're clean. Just use your hands. If you get grossed out by eating my food, more for me. Now, how do I stop this recording? Because my hands are gross. Okay, now I'm putting this in the oven at, it's supposed to be 350 degrees Fahrenheit, but for some reason my oven is only going to 325, but I don't care. I didn't put it all the way in there. Wow. I didn't push the wrap all the way in. Oops. I'm just gonna deal with that because I'm hungry. So that's going in for 30 minutes. If you're wondering how I knew that it was at 325 and not at 350, even though it gave me the signal that it was done preheating, it's because I used my Meta glasses. Again, I'm telling you, these things are pretty useful as a blind person in the kitchen. So yeah, Meta, if you see this or hear this and you feel like sponsoring someone, I have a perfect candidate that I know. And yes, it's me. Now, the moment of truth. So let's taste the product. That is so good. That cheese, so creamy. Wow. 10 out of 10 recommend.